thumbs up if you can hear me, and should be able to see my camera, and we're bringing Robbie on momentarily. So what you should see right now is just me on camera. We're not doing a slideshow today. Robbie and I are going to do basically an informal conversation in the interview style. So it's almost like a live podcast, which is a lot of fun. So, okay, you now hear Robbie?
Yep, I can hear you, and I think you can hear me. Yep, all good.
No, can't hear you. Just kidding. Okay, just let me do Robbie's introduction, and we'll have that out of the way. And I want to say just a moment of intention right here and why we're doing this. So as many of you know, Flipping 50 has been in existence since 2013. And for the 30 years prior to that, a little bit more so, I've been serving midlife women and, you know, as a coach to other coaches, a mentor to fitness professionals and health coaches, you know, I really recommend that everybody goes deep on a niche, knows exactly how to help and how to basically do the research on the people that they're working with. So I've excluded others, although I've worked with a lot of midlife men, you know, I haven't done so in about 9 years. And so I've been asked over and over, who's the men's Flipping 50? And I honestly have twisted some male friends' arms and said, I need you to do this. Why are you not doing this? So let me help you do this. I will write the script. I'll write up the program. You can do it, but it needs to come from you. And I felt really strongly about that. And, you know, I had a hard time. I struggled getting somebody to do it. And then I met Robbie. And a mutual friend, as it usually happens, introduced me to him and had said, hey, you should meet him. And not only did I meet him virtually, and we can meet people all over the world right now, but I never share things that I don't know, like, and trust with you, because that's the kind of relationship that I've got with you and the responsibility that I feel for you. So Robbie and his wife actually partnered together in more ways than one, and they are a very cool love story. So there's that on the side note. Though we actually met for dinner right in Scottsdale, and so locally, so literally I've met, we spent a couple of hours, had a great time, and needless to say, I was actually late, didn't get the memo that we were definitely meeting that night. And then I was late. And we still had a great dinner, and that was our first date, so to speak. Robbie and I met again for about an hour, a little more so, just going over what's really important to both of us about the way we work with people. And we're just in such great parallel places that I am super excited to have him here. So let me read to you who he is, what he's been doing and up to, and hopefully you're in the moment where you realize that you've got almost 60 years of experience here between the two of us. So we've got you covered. And if we don't know the answer, we're going to find it. So pain-free, a pain-free life, it's what we all strive for. But let me tell you a proven fact. At some point in your life, there's a 98% chance that you'll be forced to confront some form of intruding bodily tension in your back, your knees, your shoulders, your hips, your ankles, anybody's hand going up right now, or someplace else. Meaning for every 100 people, only 2 ever live a fully pain-free and fully functionally life. So why is this important to know? Well, it's no secret that if you want to age successfully, gracefully, you need to keep physically active. But how the heck are you supposed to do that when it's so likely that you'll eventually experience some form of bodily discomfort, or you're already in discomfort or pain? Sure, you can carry these tensions into exercise, but this only reinforces the root cause of pain. That's exactly why 87% of all exercisers get injured while exercising, or it brings out an existing exercise. This is why I invited the fitness doctor, Robbie Stahl. He's one of the most remarkable men in the fitness industry, He's renowned for developing one of the fittest 80-year-olds in the world, Joel Weldon. And yes, you should go Google him, but not right now. Okay, stay with us. Seriously, Joel water skied for 39 miles on his 80th birthday without a break. How? Well, through Robbie's 20 years of extensive research and experimentation, he's mastered the science of healing and bulletproofing your body through the power of exercise. Not only has he applied the healing power of exercise to Joel, but he also boasts a 100% in-person success rate for fixing the shoulder function in his clients who were told surgery was the only answer. A breakthrough is happening in the world of fitness, and it's now possible to fix the inner workings of your body while getting into the best shape of your life. So Robbie is now going to tell us how that happens.
Oh, all right.
Thanks so much.
It's like I'm like the picture should get. So I'm used to Zoom. I'm normally in my office and I have my fitness doctor green screen background. I do shows like 2 plus 3, 4, 5 times a month. But for whatever reason, yeah, just it's okay. So everybody understands technology and that those things can happen. Deborah, I'm so grateful to be here with you on the show. Looking forward to make this an awesome usage of everyone in attendance, every one of your time. So let's make it an awesome show now that we actually can see me and hear me, and I can hear you. So here.
Love it. All right. So for any of you who've walked into a gym for the first time, or walked into a new gym and felt like, man, this has been a really long time and I don't quite know what I'm doing, fish out of water. Robbie just did that, right? I mean, he doesn't use GoToWebinar, which is my platform. He uses Zoom. And so we're in your shoes, basically. I mean, we get it. So we're sweating a little bit. If that helps you all feel any better, I would love for you to answer in chat. So I can see by names here, which I absolutely love. If you're here, would you let me know if you're here for yourself, or if you are here and you're listening for a partner, a spouse, a brother, or somebody that you might want to forward this to, because I just, out of curiosity, love to know that. But I also alluded to the fact Robbie and I are going to do this in interview style. So I want to point out the elephant in the room also. Right now, do you see what Robbie's doing? So he's standing up, and this is so true of fitness and health coaches and professionals who get it. We have more energy when we do that. So there is a reason and a method behind the madness, and I don't care what else you do and what industry you might do it in, but this is where the energy to actually put it out there and be present for somebody comes from. So I love that he's doing that. I mean, he's walking the talk. So, you know, we're going to go through exactly what we promised you. So we're going to hit the ground running. We'll sprint this like intervals, but let's talk a little bit about, I mean, everybody wants energy, Robbie. So how is it that somebody measures their energy and beats fatigue? I mean, what's the secret behind that?
So there's a few things. One, the first thing that you need to understand is there's actually a way to really measure and to know like what your energy is. And before we even get into the topic of fitness and training and energy, I want everybody to know that the number one thing is your body mechanics. That's the number one thing, because like once you really understand the physiology perspective that we're going to present to you today, you're going to like, that's kind of the easy part. You just gotta show up basically and use some like technical common sense, and I'm going to teach you that. But the tricky part is the body mechanics. Like you all know that as you age, that knee injury that you had in high school or college, or that ladder you fell off of, or that horse you fell off of, or you know, that ankle you sprained, or you know, all of those things compiled, they all build up. They start to be issues. So the difficulty with being fit after 50 is really, it's not just the physiology and energy, but it's also like the body mechanics. Like, does your shoulder function optimally? Does your back function? Does your body let you do the things that you want to do? And like, how do you optimize that, right? So but that's going to be the kind of the magic, where the magic really happens. So stay tuned with us, and I'll talk about that in the end. So in terms of energy and measurements, you have something that we've coined resistance to fatigue, right? Which That's really what energy is. Like if you get up in the morning, and how much work do you do before you start to feel fatigued, right? What is it that you go through before you start to feel fatigued? Is it 4 hours of work, 5 hours of work? And there's many factors that play into that. So the first factor that plays into, because we all want to optimize our energy, right? So what are the first factors that play into that? Well, it's your physical fitness adaptation. So that means how fit you were as a kid. And unfortunately for these days, all of you in this age group, I'm sure most of you are really physically active when you're young, but not so good for the youth today, for the majority of them. So depending on how physically active, were you like a 4-sport athlete and riding your bike all the time and doing intense things? Was it more moderate? You're probably wearing a couch potato. It's really rare to see those that are 50 plus the couch potato when they're a kid. So that is your first factor. Your second factor is what have you been doing in the last 18 months? And you know, and it's different. Like, are you doing all aerobic? Is your workout a walking program, which isn't bad, but it's a walking program, right? Or are you doing strength training, like only strength training and you're a gym rat, you hit the weights hard 2-3 hours per day? Well, that's kind of like the walker. That's super imbalanced also. But all of those things count for producing adaptation for your body for what you're going to get fatigued from, right? And the other factors are your nutrition, your regeneration, which has to do with your sleep, your daytime energy, and also your daily stress. So in other words, if you're a person who's really energetic and you're like plugging in all the other right factors and you have lots of energy, of course, you're not going to get fatigued as much. So regeneration is really the sleep, the daytime energy, and the stress. Then there's your aerobic fitness score. You see, aerobic fitness is really the #1 factor to your energy. And the reason why is because the state that I'm at right now, the state that Deborah's at, and the state that you're all probably at, unless you're hitting a really hard workout while you're listening to us here, is all in the aerobic energy zone. So we spend most of our life in the with oxygen energy zone. So when you do like an aerobic fitness test and you're testing your endurance, that measurement of endurance is actually directly related to daytime energy. So what I'm saying is the aerobic fitness that you get in exercise is directly related to daytime energy because it happens in the same energy zone. So what you'll notice is you get more aerobically fit, it'll directly correlate to energy, right? So, and then there's your desired exercise intensity, which really comes from your emotions and how much you connect with exercise. And it's not bad or good, right? Whether you want to be like super high intensity or if you want to just be moderate, like that's okay. The thing that really goes wrong is when we start trying to like, well, this person got these results and like you're not really there yet, and that's not really who you are, but you're trying to fit the mold of them. That's a horrible idea. So really bad idea. Will typically.
All right, mic drop right there. Okay, that is a horrible idea, right? That, you know, you're here, you see somebody else here going at it this hard, but you're trying to go at it that hard. Horrible idea. And then what happens, Robbie, when you try to do that?
What happens when you try to do that is well, a few things. You're going to stress your physiological system. You're going to stress your immune system. You might tear tissue. The other thing that happens really interesting. So all of these things aren't just physical. We also, like everything that has to do with your body starts mostly like with the nervous system and with the endocrine system. So two things happen. Your nervous system gets stressed out. It feels shocked. Okay, literally shocked. It can even feel forms of trauma. And when you feel trauma, what are you going to do? You're going to ball up. So when you get muscle tightness from workouts, oftentimes it's related to overstressing the tissue, and it can just be literally like trauma. And you have trapped emotions from whether you're a man or woman, like you have these emotions. Trust me, I grew up with a Marine Corps father, and I played full contact sports for 20 years. I've done competitive MMA fighting, all kinds of stuff. And I have emotions too, right? And so I think part of it for guys is like, hey, you know, check your ego out the door and realize like you have emotions too. And your workouts are a time to do self-healing, both mentally, emotionally, and physically. And if you approach it that way, then you'll remove the mental, emotional trauma and the physical trauma too. because all these things are related. So, so it can become damaging or really healing in a lot of ways.
So good. So I think we're segueing right into this question, which, what is the number one obstacle that prevents men from getting in the best shape of their lives? Because I'm guessing that any of you men who are here, and by the way, women who are here for your guys, I just want to make something clear that you can't want it for him more than he wants it for himself. All right. So guys, you're in charge. Make sure you're letting him watch this because he's got to choose it. You can't nag this one to happen. Okay, I promise you. Been there, done that, not working. All right, but everybody here has tried something. I'm guessing they showed up because they wanted. This isn't their first rodeo, but it didn't happen or they got hurt first. What's the number one obstacle? How does a guy overcome that obstacle so they can get in the best shape of their life?
So I'm going to give you a big, I'm going to create a breakthrough in understanding how your body works in relationship to exercise and physical activity. But first, I'm going to give you some really simple mind share, so to speak. And so the obstacle is when you go to exercise, you go to work out, you go to achieve your physical goals, you don't want to do what you can do. Like most people go, think about this. Like when most people go to work out, if they can lift 100 pounds for 10 reps, that's all over the fitness industry that, oh, results start to happen once you go to failure and all this stuff. And like, yeah, there's some truth to that depending on who the person is. So if you're an Olympic athlete, that's going to be absolutely true. And you're doing a physical activity that's related to your sport, that's going to be true. Why? Because you have huge, tremendous adaptation. Remember what we talked about with the physical adaptation, one of the factors for resistant to fatigue. So you're going to be really resistant to fatigue if you have that level of adaptation, but most of us don't, right? So you don't go and do, if you can do 10 reps with 100 pounds, you don't do that, especially in the beginning. What do? You can do like 50 pounds for like 8 or 10 reps and make amazing results if you're in like the beginner category. But then depending on your fitness level, those things change. And there's certain body parts that can be in the beginner level, even though you think of yourself as I've exercised for years, right? So let's take an example like you've worked out in the gym for years, but let's say you never, for a really simple example, but you never train calves, right? You don't do any calf, this stuff. You don't really do much of this, but you really work your upper body. So you go and you decide you're going to do 3 sets of 20 calf raise to a big burn. Well, the likelihood is over 50, you're probably going to create some fibrotic or scar tissue from doing that. It's not just going to be healthy connective tissue and contractile tissue. In other words, the functional good stuff, the muscle we really want to build, it's not going to be that. It's going to come back with scar tissue because you overstressed the system. So even though the person's advanced, that body part wasn't. So you want to always think about like what you're adapted to. Don't do what you can do, and certainly don't do the Al Bundy thing, right? Remember Married with Children, when Al Bundy would always talk about throwing the football over the mountain when he was in high school. So, right, that's the same thing. You don't want to do that until you build up to it, right? If you build up to where you were in high school, okay, fine, but you should have a steady process to get there. So audio only, audience members as well, or everyone's audio and visual?
We may have some who are joining on their phones, and so they're probably audio only. Yep.
All right. So imagine this as a beginner, which a beginner let's classify as someone who has 0 to 6 months of exercise experience. Now think about what I just shared with you about going to the gym and really being used to lifting weights, but maybe not used to doing calves, or you're used to doing all this stuff, but you're not used to swimming. And then you go out and like swim a bunch. Well, that's a good way to like inflame your rotator cuffs because the tissues aren't used to that load and stress. So think about this as like 0 to 6 months of experience in the type of exercise. And to not get too complicated, think like aerobic exercise and strength exercise. And what have you put your body through? For a beginner, you have that adaptation and resistance to fatigue, which is like the beginning point. And then on the next part of like a graph, if you could imagine like a graph, The next part of the graph along the bottom, you would have your physical workload capacity. In other words, simple example, 100-pound bench press for 10 reps is the best you can do. That's your physical capacity, let's say as a beginner. Your adaptation would be at about a 3.5 on like a scale. Imagine like a scale that goes along. Imagine your best genetic potential that you max out to the absolute highest level. That's like the end of the graph, right? Maybe even you're taking like steroids and everything. Like that's the extreme end of the graph. Okay, so beginner exerciser, you're at like a 3.5. Physical workload capacity right now, you're at like a 7. What you would see is you would see the negative, right? Negative results. Now there's the next really big thing I want you all to really start thinking about, and that is you don't just get positive results from exercise. You can if you're really strategic about it, but there's a lot of negative exercise results that nobody talks about. Although I'm sure you all talk about it amongst your friends, like, man, my shoulder's really hurting me from that, or my back, or my energy, or that, you know, those are things that you felt from trying to do physical activity. So negative results start when you start working your body, and that's good. That you want a mix of negative. So that's like breaking down the cells, causing an immune stress. You want that. It's literally causing stress and fatigue and breakdown to your body when you exercise. You want that, but you want it in a very controlled, optimal dosage. So what happens is, a beginner, as you start getting to your physical performance capacity, you have the negative results start shooting up like crazy because your body, it was not really adapted to that. So if you look at the positive results, in other words, more energy, more strength, more mobility, more capability, more feeling of high quality function of life, and feeling euphoric from your exercise, all the results.
Libido.
Yeah,
Yeah.
libido, blood flow, okay, right? Blood flow also within your libido, you know what I'm saying, correct? So all of those type of results, that comes in the positive result line. Well, what you'll find as a beginner is by around that 5 mark, right? In other words, 70% of your can do, you're gonna start petering out or stopping or tapering off or decreasing positive results, because your body is so non-adapted to resistant to fatigue to exercise. So as a beginner, the amazing thing as a beginner, like when you're experienced exercise, you really like wish, man, if I could be a beginner again, I could only work out for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Amazing results. So like at a 5, you start you know, tapering out with positive results, and then that negative result line spikes, and that is tissue breakdown and fibrotic tissue formation. As you age, your body produces more of what's called P38, which is a genetic transcription factor that increases fibrotic tissue formation in the body. So you have to compete with all these different things and becoming more inflamed as you get older, and you don't want to overstress the system. So what I just said in simple terms is that when you're a beginner, you only need to do about 40% effort, and you're going to have absolutely amazing results until you become in the intermediate category. And what we've seen in the research in terms of health and fitness and strength and the effects that you can get from exercise is that when you go from couch potato to moderately fit, you have a crazy level of improved health results, an extreme, like life-changing, life-altering, longevity, 10 more years, maybe more on your life type of thing. But when you when you go to intermediate, all those scales jump up to where you're about 60% for your adaptation. So now if you train only at about 70% of your effort, you're going to get amazing results, right? So in the advanced, you get an extra like 10%. You don't really get that much more, okay? So where do the big results stand to come from? And that's really from your biomechanics, to have biomechanical optimization. And I know you have some more questions, Deborah. We can get into that in a moment.
Well, I do, and I think you're really alluding to this, but paint the picture in, you know, really simplistic terms. So how does a guy listening design that fitness routine that honors the body he's got right now to get the one he wants?
So So the, 1 second, I need to pull one more thing up on my computer. There we go. Thank you.
And maybe you want to give this in, what's an example of, say, a workout session? I mean, what does that look like for a guy as opposed to, high school football workouts?
Yeah. So if I could, can I jump to that on the next one? Because I want to kind of tie it all together. So like, how do you design a fitness routine that will honor the body that you have right now and then get the one you want? So really, this is if you haven't already you don't already see like a naturopathic physician, a really good one that can help you optimize your biochemistry, your hormones, your overall health, looking at all of your health factors and help you be optimized, like testosterone, right? Really important one. And so if you haven't done that, highly suggest you do that because it just makes everything else so much more fruitful and easy and energetic. Next is consider the things that I shared with you before, which is like your physical fitness adaptation. We talked about that, your resistance to fatigue and matching all of those things. But then there's your musculoskeletal, right? Your body, your shoulders and your hip and your back and your knees. Where do you have body issues? Do you have body issues? If you're like most mortals over the age of 50, probably have some body issues somewhere. Or if you're not careful, they really creep in, right? So you want to consider those things and then tie that in with like the specificity of your health needs and your fitness goals. So like, what is that? And then you design all that into a solution plan with mechanics first as the key foundation, right? So how do you really do that? Like, what does that look like? All right, so here's where the magic really starts to happen. So let's talk about where we've come from, and then we'll tie it in so then we can like take you to the next phase. So where you've come from is you've learned that you really don't have to exercise that intensely to get amazing results. As you get experience, yes, you do need to push yourself or you won't get amazing results. Yes, but usually less than you think. The where I want you to go extreme is on consistency. Like, I'm a huge believer in daily physical activity. Doesn't mean extreme strength training every day, definitely not. But like one day you walk or walk and run or run, depending on your physical capabilities, or bike and swim, right? Or elliptical and swim, or a rower and swim. So what you want to do is, first of all, with your aerobic activity, these repetitive patterns, you don't want to like run. Oh, why does my knee bother me? I don't know. Let's think about it, right? So that's what most people do. Most people go and run, bike, like these people who do biking for like 150 miles per week, and then wonder why they have a shoulder problem when they're on the bicycle like this, with these kind of thoracic mechanics for like thoracic being your upper body, right? After all that time. So you want to think about your mechanics first. So when you go to do like your aerobic, which you should do at least 3 times per week, and how much and where and how intense, that depends. Where are you coming from? It's a huge loaded answer for you. So I'm going to just say, tie back to everything I shared already and stay in your moderate zone, your moderate to occasionally moderate high. That's going to keep you healthy. And then on your other days, what you really need to do is you need to be doing an approach, what I call biomechanical optimization, which means basically the body has a very specific and ideal way that it's supposed to function. Let me give you an example. Like if we look at the ankle and the foot is supposed to have a moderate arch. The ankle is supposed to be able to bend back with the toes coming towards the shin at about 31 degrees at least when your knee is bent, right? And then you should have stability. You should have an ability to pull your toes towards your shin really well. But like you could do a bunch of different strength training and not have that, and you could actually reinforce mobility restrictions, and then you're going to create dysfunction in your mechanics on the bottom of your body. So now every time you take a step or do different things that use your feet and ankle, you're going to transfer dysfunction up through your body, for example. Right? So instead of approaching fitness in a way like, how do my arms look, right? Like, that's cool and that's fun, let's do that, and my chest and all these things. Like how about we focus on how should the shoulder function? So there's like 17 different things that go wrong with the shoulder. This muscle here, the pec minor, gets too tight and pulls the scapula up and forward. The lats get too tight and pull the shoulder down. The upper traps and these muscles in here pull the scapula this way, so that when you raise your arm, your scapula, your shoulder head starts to run into your scapula and get what's called impingement. All these things happen, and that happens in your spine, your pelvis, your hips. It happens everywhere, and this stuff is really, honestly, it's really, really complex. But as you get past 50, my encouragement is you must figure out how to optimize your mechanics while you get fit. Because think about this, if you exercise in such a way that everything you do is leading towards a mechanical function, an optimal body mechanics function, then when you go to add additional load and stress and endurance, now you're reinforcing optimal function, but very, very few people do that. What most people do is as they get more fit, they reinforce dysfunction and they add strength and endurance to dysfunctional body mechanics, and that's what leads to breakdown. So then it kind of negates like all the physiological stuff you just learned from me in the last 30 minutes, because it's actually the mechanics which is really the straw that will break the camel's back, and it's actually a really big straw. So my advice is to do really biomechanical optimization first, right? And so then the question all of you have is like, well, how the heck am I going to do that? It sounds really complicated. So one thing that we do is we hold something called a full body fix, which is a week-long event where I take you through in one session feet and ankles, another session knee and hips, another session pelvis, low back and upper back, another session shoulders and neck. And I'm literally teaching you for 5 different sessions. All these sessions are different, so 5 different sessions how to optimize your body mechanics and learn all the details and the nuances. And I'm giving you exercise and I'm helping you self-analyze your body. So we do that totally for free, right? We could charge a ton for the system that we do for free. I'm there, and at the end of each session, we go to live Q&A for any questions you have. So because you're all Deborah's audience members, I'd love to give you that gift for free. So
I twisted his arm. I just put the link, by the way, in the chat for all of you who are here live, and for you who are watching the replay. Obviously, you're not seeing that chat scroll by you, but you will be watching this replay, and the link will be right there for you. So flipping50.com/men's body fix. There's no apostrophe when you look at it that way. Robbie, I wanna ask a question that several people asked right away. So when we talked about, if you optimize your endocrine system, you optimize your hormones, it's going to be easier for you and it'll go a whole lot smoother. And I see the same thing among our women, and we tell them, I'm often asked, well, what's your opinion of, hormones or bioidentical hormones? And, first of all, it's every woman's opinion as to whether she wants to. It's her right to decide, definitely. But I can tell you that those women who do it do respond better in terms of their bone density, in terms of their lean muscle mass, and then ultimately, because of that, their body composition improves. So losing that fat becomes easier when your hormones are optimized. The other way you optimize it is you don't go crazy out of the gate doing a workout that is not your business to be doing, right? You do your workout. You do it safely, you do it slowly, you progress very slowly in a safe way, optimizing. So in this way, men are not different. They too should optimally be testing to find out, do they need to supplement, and then be talking with a very wise endocrinologist that they trust to decide what's the next step for me. But I will tell you this, in the very unfair world that we live in, a guy can walk into the weight room and really support his testosterone a heck of a lot faster than a woman can support hers and her estrogen and progesterone and the whole dozen other show that we got going on. So he's at a huge advantage, and we are so very jealous.
Yeah, so yeah, it's very true. Yeah.
So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about this, because I've got another guy who's saying, sore shoulder already. Good candidate for the total body fix? And because I know we're going to have guys who think, well, I'm already injured or already sore, so maybe I'm not ready for it. What do you say to that, Robbie?
Yeah, well, that is what it's for. So first, that's what it's for, is to help you learn how to fix yourself and learn the mechanics. Like, even regardless of if you're going to physical therapy now, or you've had a recent surgery, or you're thinking about surgery, regardless of if you're really fit and you're like, man, I would love to learn all those body mechanics optimization things so I don't ever develop those problems. Regardless of where you're at on the spectrum, the full body fix is perfect for you, because I teach it in such a way that you're human, you have a foot and an ankle, and it's going to function the same way. And I'm not giving you extra, you're not jumping around and like seeing how much you can bench press and like doing things like that. You're learning introduction exercises, but you're learning your body mechanics in a very deep way, that what you learn would be able to then make every physical activity and every exercise you do thereafter better, because you're going to understand your body alignment, your muscle activation at a much deeper level. So it's really right for everyone, and I created it that way.
Great. Now, here's a question I want to get to. I want you to meditate on this one while I give you another one. How's that for unfairness? So let's talk about, and you've alluded to this, like you want the balance, but let's paint the picture of what are the mistakes that some of the men are making here that put them in the position where they've got torn rotator cuff. And this happens to women too, but I would say more often to men than to women. Torn rotator cuff, what are the mistakes that you see done most commonly? I'm going to volunteer that, we used to call it, I used to teach at a university in kinesiology. And so of course the guys in my class, the college students, Friday night, we used to tease them. I mean, they're doing curls for the girls, working the mirror muscles, right? And they can get away with that when they're 20, but you cannot get away with doing chest press and bicep curls, later over and over. Robbie, other mistakes, things that are leading to that?
Yeah, well, actually, it's interesting, because even the 20-year-olds, oftentimes they even don't get away with it, but like they can recover a little bit and they'll stop doing it. But then when they're near 50 and over, then those things resurface because those tissues got torn and broken down there. But here's something really interesting about shoulder specifically. One of the number one, so like the number one things that are going to injure your shoulder, and it's not because the exercise that I'm going to tell you is bad. Okay, it's because most people doing these are doing them wrong, and they don't have the proper stability, the stabilization, and the muscle control, and what we call motor function, the motor control, how to align the body and the scapula shoulder blades properly when doing a push-up. A push-up is like one of the number one things that I see people injure their shoulder with all the time. So if you're doing push-ups, and you don't really deeply understand body mechanics and shoulder functionality, and you're going to high fatigue at home with push-ups or the gym, I strongly suggest you stop. Like, you'd be better off not doing any push-ups whatsoever and doing something else, because pressing is cool. It makes your front part of your shoulder look good. It builds your triceps, it builds your chest. But like, one of my friends, Todd Ellenbecker, was the #1 shoulder researcher in the US.
Yeah, I've got his book right over here on my shelf.
Like for his athletes, he has them like, don't do pressing, don't do push-ups, like do all pulling exercises.
Pulling, yeah.
Because there's much more. And I'm not telling you that actually. I'm telling you that actually it really is important to have some pushing strength, and I don't want to lead you completely away from that. But most people just aren't motor function set up to do a push-up, especially to high fatigue properly. So you'd be better off doing like light dumbbells and having really good control and that type of thing than you would putting your whole body load on in a push-up position, until you really learn what you're doing. So the really important thing is for you to strengthen your back muscles. So that's like rowing exercise, that's pull down exercise, that's external rotation exercises, both at your side and up. All those things are really important. So what you want to do is mobilize your anterior or front side of your upper body, and you want to strengthen the back side of your upper body. That's the general rule of thumb of what you want to do to have optimal. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's really, if you just did that, if you think about it, like 65% of your upper body exercises should be pulling and only like 35% pushing. It'll already start sending you in the right direction.
Love that. So love that. And the other question we're getting here is just more about testosterone, but I want to come back to something you said when optimizing your endocrine system. And really, because you were talking about how you put your body under stress, we can cause that scar tissue to happen and that the tissue to actually get bound up and tighter, and you feel that literally, but it also causes problems down the road. But we're also talking not in a way we don't talk about in the women's area, but about cortisol, right? So if you're increasing your cortisol by the way that you're training such that you're not gaining energy from it, then, I mean, you've got a really good sign, a really good evidence. If you're stiff and sore and more tired and kind of having to complain because of your workout, you know, Robbie, do you, like I do, use that as a gauge for, you know, we're not in your sweet spot? How do you address that?
Well, cortisol has a direct inverse relationship with testosterone. So as your cortisol goes up, so that's basically your stress hormone, if you're not really familiar with what cortisol is, as it's a stress hormone. So it basically is like, if you're really stressed out from work or relationship or workouts or really anything, your cortisol will respond to that. So as your cortisol rises, your testosterone will go down. And that leads to decreased insulin sensitivity. In other words, you don't process carbohydrates as well. Testosterone goes down, you start not recovering as well. So it's really important to help keep that testosterone up. You want to bring the cortisol down. And some of the really good ways to do that is work on your mental health. I would say that's one of the first things. So, you know, a lot of meditation, get out and see the sun, you know, first thing in the morning. Don't wait so many hours before you get out in the sun, even just for 10 minutes, do some nice deep breathing, relaxation. That starts your circadian rhythm, your balancing rhythm for your day. And then one really interesting thing about testosterone and testosterone replacement therapy provided to you by a doctor who has tested you and diagnosed you for low testosterone. The results of that are huge. Like, I can just tell you a really interesting behind the scenes and pivotal conversation I had, and I'm involved in what's called the American College of Sports Medicine. And at one of the conferences a few years back, I had dinner with like the #1 testosterone researcher. He had like a government position, and he was looking at what all the testosterone supplementation and prescriptions were doing and the negative results and stuff, and seeing what the risk factors were. Well, he shared with me personally and off the record, and I won't say who it was or anything, but I can share you the story and we can stay all above board and you can get great information. Is that it's like basically, unless you're like over the age of 70 or you really have some serious health complications like heart issue, close to heart failure, you really have very poor health and you just have very low physical capability. If you have really, really low physical capability and some disease states, if you're that person, testosterone can create negative effects for you, okay? So, but if you're why? Because like testosterone is going to give you more energy, it's going to give you more capability, and now your body's going to be doing stuff that you're ill-equipped for. That's basically why. But he said that otherwise, like what we've seen in the research is it's amazing. It boosts life, it boosts energy, it gives people more willpower in their relationship, in the bedroom, in their business, and in everything. So like testosterone is definitely like one of the fountains of youth, and you don't want to go crazy with the stuff, but you do want to have an optimal level. Again, see your doctor, get it tested, and it's a great thing to, if it's appropriate for you and their doctor decides it's definitely a thing that can help you, and it's really easy. It's one of those dominoes that when you knock down that domino, it makes all the other dominoes a lot easier.
So true, so true. And just coming full circle back to what you said earlier, it's like you still got it, girl, for the ladies who are in the room, you know what that means. But it's not just the exercise, it's what else needs to be in place. And Robbie talked right away. First answer to the first question, you got to have the sleep on point, right? So sleep helps you optimize your testosterone and growth hormone and cortisol, which all help to optimize the results that you want and the energy that you want and get rid of the fatigue that you don't. Robbie, I can't thank you enough. I'm going to mention to everybody again, it's right there in the chat. Those of you who are here live, it's flipping50.com/men's body fix. There's no spaces between that. I just don't put them there. So that'll be there for those of you who are watching the replay. That's totally free. Let's be clear again. You're getting a tremendous value by showing up. I mean, they're literally schooling you on how do you make exercise feel better? How do you make movement feel good so that you can do what it is that you want to do and what you need to do pain-free? Not just now, but are we all concerned about for decades to come? So, Robbie, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, you're so very welcome, Deborah, and you are amazing. So it's always an honor to connect with you, and love being here with you, with your audience, and much love to you.
All right, everybody, now it's up to you. So we're looking forward to seeing you. I'm hoping to hop in with you when you're there for the fix. So look forward to tell a friend right here, because a lot of men are exercising, trying to get results and not. So share it. Don't keep this one to yourself.